So ever since 2005, we have had a Christmas special for Doctor Who, or a festive special, whether it's a New Year special or a Christmas special, doesn't matter. But in the festive time of the year, we've always had a Christmas special. Until this year. Ho ho ho, hello, my name is Aidan Green, and I'm part of the 50% Doctor Who podcast. This is part of our 12 Days of Christmas celebrations. That's daily uploads, all sorts of Christmas content, all sorts of Doctor Who content coming your way over the next 12 days. It's fantastic, so subscribe so you don't miss a beat. Today, what I'm going to do is I'm going to be ranking, using a lovely little tier list, I'm going to be ranking all the Christmas and festive specials. So that's from the Christmas Invasion all the way up to Eve of the Daleks. We're going to have a bit of fun, bit of a chat as we go. So yeah, and I bet you're wondering what my favorite one is going to be. Because even I'm not sure. I don't have an opinion yet. I think once I kind of lay them all out, I will have figured out what my favorite one is. But let's get into it. Ho ho ho. So I made this tier list myself, so I will link it down below, so that way you can do it and put together your little festive opinions as you like. So these are in a random, no particular order. Let's get started with Twice Upon a Time. Now this one is a Christmas special that begs to not have been made. You know, obviously you can tell that Pete was supposed to regenerate at the end of series 10, and this was made as, I don't even want to say afterthought. It's Moffat didn't want to lose the Christmas spot, right? Because Chibnall quite rightfully didn't want to make the start of his brand new era being on Christmas, and then people have to wait 6 months or however long to get the actual season. So I understand Chibnall's hesitancy there. So Moffat kindly made this Christmas special, and it's definitely, Pete's fantastic in it, and Rachel Talalay is great at directing, and everyone else is great, but the return of Bill feels a little tacked on, and Will Hartnell is good, but it feels like a stereotype of Will Hartnell, you know what I mean? I've not seen enough of his original classics to have a proper opinion on that stuff, but there is, it's like when you see a character who embodies the main things you know about a character, whereas that character has way more than just the main things to them. I'm gonna put him in the B tier. I think it's a good episode. It's not a great episode. It's not a terrible episode. Okay, The Husbands of River Song, on the other hand, SA. I don't know, because this is one that I've liked more and more with time. But I think the plot kind of lingers in the back half a little bit. It gets super emotional at the end. But it's not I don't think it's an S tier. I think it's an A tier. Rate it, and Pete and Alex Kingston are fantastic together. Resolution. I'm going to keep my thoughts on this one to a bit of a minimum because we've not reviewed it on the podcast yet. And so because of that, I've not watched this episode in about 3 years. So most of these episodes I've seen recently, except Dr. Mysterio, Resolution, and Twice Upon a Time. But Resolution, from memory, I'm going to put it in... it's a C or a B. It's a C or a B. I know a lot of people really like Resolution, but it's not one... I've always thought it was good in... I don't know. I don't even know. I'm going to go C. I don't really turn back to it much. I like the feel of it. It felt quite refreshing after a lot of Series 11, but... yeah, Eve of the Daleks, on the other hand, that's real tough. That's a doozy. Eve of the Daleks. Man, shall we go A? A? It is such a flawed episode, but I love how it feels. It feels COVID-y without feeling COVID, if you know what I mean. If you look at the production, it's obviously limited cast, one location. Chibnall has said it was written in 2 weeks. It is the culmination of so many COVID problems they had on the set. Originally, this special was supposed to be a much bigger Dalek story, and I wonder if it would have originally been a bit more of a third part of the Dalek, of Resolution and Revolution. But instead, maybe they couldn't do the bigger budget one that they wanted to do, and instead had to tone it back and do a little bottle episode with Eve of the Daleks. And I think it's in a way that's similar to Midnight, although Midnight definitely is better. It works being that contained episode, and there's so many flaws in the script, little plot holes that don't quite make sense. But I think it's a really fun watch, and I rewatched this one recently, and it's probably definitely my top 3 Jodie stories. Just a lot of fun for New Year's. Perfect New Year's, I'm hungover viewing. Sound good, right? But on the other hand, Voyage of the Damned, S tier. Straight in. S tier. It is phenomenal. it could be my favorite. It's definitely top 2, top 3 Christmas specials. David's great in it. It's good Christmas viewing, emotional roller coaster. It's that Christmas tragedy, I guess, and not all Christmas ones have to be lovely and romantic and stuff, which this episode has that, but it's obviously also got a dark turn. You get those holiday movies that are like big blockbusters that come out around Christmas, and I feel like Voyage of the Damned is one of those. What isn't one of those is the return of Dr. Mysterio. This is the only episode of Doctor Who that I have only seen once, of New Who, that I've only seen once, which is huge because I rewatch whenever I get the Blu-rays. I always rewatch them. I never ever rewatched this episode because I hated it that much at the time. I feel like because I really love Peter now, this episode will be boosted up for me. But I'm also not really a superhero kind of guy, although I do love New York. I don't know, I haven't seen this episode since 2016, so this one's a really hard one for me. But based on my prior experiences with it, I'm going to put it in the D tier, although I have a feeling it may rise up a little bit when I rewatch it, which we are going to be rewatching as part of our podcast. That episode will be coming out on the 23rd of December. That's our big Christmas special episode of the podcast, so make sure you stick around for that one. And we'll see what we think of that one. The Runaway Bloody Bride, mate. The Runaway Bride. Connor and I have filmed a watch along for this episode, which will be coming out in either tomorrow or a couple of days later on the channel. It's going to be part of our 12 days of Christmas uploads. It's a fun romp. I won't say too much because we've reviewed it on the podcast before, and we've now done a watch along. But yeah, it's a fantastic episode, and I'm going to put it in the S tier. It's a lot of fun, crazy energy, and Eros Lynn, who directed that episode, is just phenomenal. Speaking of phenomenal, A Christmas Carol is S. Do I need to stand up for any more? I know there's flying sharks, some CGI that's questionable, but the heart, the warmth, the cleverness of this episode is second to none. Like, it is just a well-crafted story, and a really nice breath of fresh air from the Russell festive specials, which all kind of feel the same. I know there's a bit of variety later in the specials that RTD did, but this feels really different. I think the entire night setting really helps with that. And someone brought up to me recently that all of Moffat's Christmas specials are predominantly set at night, which is a really interesting fact. And they're right. And this episode just has that dark, kind of spooky Christmas vibe to it. And S tier, lovely song. I've got the white vinyl pressing, which is very rare. And my girlfriend bought it for me for like my birthday, like 4 or 5 years ago, not knowing sort of how rare it was and how awesome that vinyl is. She just found it in a vinyl shop. And I put that vinyl on every Christmas. I think the score is beautiful, and obviously that final track is amazing as well. The Snowmen is an episode that kind of goes up and down for me. Like, some days I love it, some days I'm like, it's not great, but it's another episode that I really love the tone of. It was, I guess, for me, where the start of the 50th hype came in, which was a very special time for me, and I'm sure a lot of other people. You got the new TARDIS, the new look for the Doctor, new companion not properly joining yet, but it was our first time we got sort of a Clara-focused episode, because obviously she was in Asylum of the Daleks as well, and then you got the new TARDIS and a lovely coming soon trailer at the end. This episode, it's probably a B episode, but I'm going to put it in the A tier, because I love to watch it. I think, along with a lot of the Series 7 episodes, I don't think they're actually that well written and stuff, but I enjoy watching them, and I guess that's the best compliment you can give a show, right? Like, you got good entertainment value out of it, and that's what The Snowmen provides for me. The Doctor, the Widow, and the Wardrobe starts very strong. It has a really good, I think, like, first 20-25 minutes, because I always remember not really liking this as a kid. And then when we rewatched it for the podcast, Doctor Who Goes to Narnia, I was like, this is really good. When I was starting it, I was like, what am I questioning here? Like, there's some dodgy CGI at the start, and there's some silly, I want to call them Moffatisms. I love Moffat's writing, but he has some quirks, that come up from time to time. And this episode has quite a few of those. But once they get to Narnia, it all sort of goes downhill. I love the aesthetic, very pretty, but the plot becomes loosey-goosey. The threat doesn't feel that great. The CGI in the back half of the episode is horrific. I know they filmed this 3 months before the episode came out, so it then obviously has to go through editing and post-production before it even gets to the VFX stage. So I don't know how long they had to work on VFX for this episode, and that shows. I know that Murray Gold only got, I think, 1 week or like 8 days or something to do the score for it, which is crazy. It does have a classic Murray magical score because that man is insane. But Doctor in the Wardrobe, I'm going to put in a C tier. Starts strong, very quickly falls off. Speaking of falls off, was this a good transition? I don't know. Last Christmas, I say falls off because there is crabs on people's faces that fall off. That's how that transition worked in my brain. I don't know if that worked at all for anyone else. Probably not. Last Christmas, I gave you... I always really enjoy this one when I watch it, but part of me wants to put it in B, but I'm also well aware that it's far better than Twice Upon a Time. So this is an A for me. I enjoy watching it. It's wholesome. It's a nice send-off to Danny. Would have been a nice send-off to Clara if they did go down that route. It's got some nice symmetry in the final scene, with obviously Pete helping old Clara do the cracker, and in Time of the Doctor we saw Clara helping old Pete open the cracker. So that stuff's really nice. Moffat, this is Moffat just writing lovely, great sort of sci-fi, spooky Christmas stuff. And it's an A. Great reference to Alien in there that I really like. The End of Time. So many of these festive specials fall into this category for me where I did not enjoy them at the time, but over time, The End of Time has become a favorite Christmas special of mine. It's messy. There's some, that thing, kind of weird. And John Sim turning into like a skeleton is one of the choices of all time. I can confirm that was a choice that was made, whether it was a good one. Let's just say it was a choice. So there is those questionable things that stop me from putting it in an in an S. I think it belongs in an A. Really good, really emotional, real fun watch. It's the only episode where you kind of get Wilf as a companion. You know what I mean? Like, he's obviously in a lot of episodes and gets some great emotional and funny scenes, but this is the 2 episodes where Wilf is the Doctor's companion. And I love that. I wish we had more of that. And I hope we get to see a decent amount of Bernard Cribbins in the 60th anniversary. Hopefully we will. Love that man so much, and he is so deeply missed. What isn't missed though is the next Doctor. D for D's nuts. Me and Connor in our podcast for this episode, I think we spoke about it for a minute, and then the rest of the podcast we just chose to ignore it because neither of us found it at all entertaining. I was bored, miserable. After the hype of Stolen Earth Journey's End, the next Doctor is just such an unbelievably average episode. And the thing is, it's not really particularly bad. It's just, for me, boring. Really boring. But hey, David Morrissey, I think is good in it. I like his costume, and I think it's a good premise, although a little bit clickbaity. But yeah, it's a D. It's a D. It's in D's nuts tier. Christmas Invasion is always an S or an A. Oh, heckin' heck. I don't want to make this choice. Oh, it's an S. It's a Stone Cold classic, isn't it? The first proper Christmas special. I know we had The Unquiet Dead, but that was just an episode set at Christmas. It wasn't a Christmas special. I thought about including it here for a bit of Ecclestone action, but well, I didn't. Christmas Invasion, S tier. So many classic moments. I watched this episode like a week ago, and it still holds up. The Christmas tree spinning around, Merry Xmas, everybody's playing, Sycorax are like one of the greatest one-off villains of all time. Even though they're just like a warrior army race, they just, I don't know, it's so good. It's such a good Christmas movie in a way, it's lovely to watch at Christmas. And that's all I really got to say on that. Harriet Jones is back. Don't you think she looks tired? Revolution of the Daleks. Right, this episode had a lot of hype because at the time we were all super keen for Jack to be back, and we saw these new Dalek designs. I think the poster's real pretty, and we knew that Dan's not even here yet. We knew that Graham and Ryan were leaving. And we had a great cliffhanger after the Timeless Children. And so this episode, bumper episode, I think it's like 70 minutes long. I think that it sort of just plods along a bit at times, which I think is a lot of Chibnall era episodes do kind of just have this plodding pacing where it's just like, bum, 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 bum. Let's go here. Oh, there's a Dalek. Let's go here. Oh, there's another Dalek. I'm gonna explain some things. That's for me, a lot of Chibnall's weaker episodes sort of follow that, where they just plod. They're just plodders of an episode. The pacing isn't quite there. This episode has some great moments. I think the ending is fantastic. Those visuals, the CGIs of the Daleks all coming in. Questionable morals there. You know, I don't know that the Doctor usually, even though it's the Daleks, would just call a billion, well not billion, but a bunch of Daleks. I know, she just kills a lot of Daleks in the process, which I know she shouldn't hate. But it also just like, those Daleks, they weren't fucking with the Doctor at that moment, and now they all gotta die, apparently. But it did introduce the thin boy, the tiny little Dalek, you know, little squish Dalek. That meme, that's a good meme, right? And yeah, Jack's a bit of fun in it and has a great scene with Yaz. It's a B tier for me. I enjoy it. It's a nice watch. It's a nice watch. It's not an incredible watch, but it's a nice watch. The Time of the Doctor. All right, this is the final one we got on here. This is probably, I want to say, the messiest Christmas special. All right, a lot of shit going on in 60 minutes, and I don't sort of blame it because I understand that Moffat wanted to do a 4th season with Matt. And I think a lot of those ideas got shoved into this episode. It's crazy. It's a bananas episode. Doesn't quite tie everything together neat. It's like when you do your shoelaces really, really fast and you have like one loop longer than the other and the other one's kind of tiny, and then like 10 minutes after walking it all kind of unravels and you gotta tie it up again. It's still messy and you're just getting frustrated. That's the best analogy I could think of. A better one would be using a Christmas bow because it's a Christmas themed episode. But Time of the Doctor, it's messy, but I'd be lying if I didn't really enjoy this episode. It's very nostalgic. It's once again got that solid Christmas tone that Moffat does so damn well. And yeah, it's emotional at the end. I think Clara's stuff's great. I also think, I know a lot of people find a lot of the humor in the first act a bit cringe. I think it's funny as when Connor and I reviewed this episode on the podcast, we both were just blown away at how hilarious this episode was. There is some lines that are a bit like, oh, okay, little cringe Moffat, horny Moffat, as we used to say. But no, it is a lot of fun of an episode. I'm a big fan of it. Doesn't tie together nicely. But, look, it probably deserves a B, but I enjoy it so much that I'm going to put it in an A tier. And that's all the festive specials, unless I missed one. I don't think I have. And they're all up there, you know? And look, it's more of a winning than loss. That Christmas specials, even if it's Dr. Mysterio and stuff, they're always a fun watch. It's always fun to watch a festive special of sorts. I say that, but I've not gone back to Mysterio, so it couldn't have been that fun. Look at that. That's a nice list. Mostly A, a few S. So in the S tier, we've got Voyage of the Damned, The Runaway Bride, The Christmas Carol, and The Christmas Invasion. Oh, so RTD's got 3 Christmas specials in there, and Moffat's got 1, but Moffat has a lot in A tier. And Chibnall's ones are kind of scattered throughout. But I have always thought that Chibnall's New Year's specials have gotten better with time, and this list does reflect that. So ain't that lovely? Ain't that lovely? And you know, looking at the top 4 in the S tier, which would be my favorite? Not Christmas Invasion. Oh, this is the impossible choice. I want to say it's either Voyage of the Damned or A Christmas Carol. Oh man, I can't choose. It's a draw for a winner. I genuinely can't pick what's better, Christmas Carol or Voyage of the Damned. I think they're both incredible episodes. And yeah, so that's an anticlimax for you. Like I said, this list will be linked down below. Send them through to us on Twitter and Instagram at 50Doctor. We'd love to see what you guys are doing. And subscribe if you haven't already for more festive Christmas content. I hope you're enjoying the 12 days of Christmas. And I hope that we are successfully putting out the episodes. We are filming these quite far in advance. This is like December 2nd or 3rd, whatever day Australia just got kicked out of the World Cup. But yeah, so subscribe if you haven't already, and there'll be more festive content coming your way tomorrow. Thank you so much for watching, and have a beer on me. Cheers.